What up?
Yo, what's up, guys?
What is up, D-Money? How you doing? How are you enjoying your weekend?
Whew. It has been an amazing convention here. Yeah, you guys need to come here and experience it for yourselves next time because it has been a very special event. So many awesome people. And then you have Binks, and then it's like,
Yeah, you know, it's whatever. Hey, how'd you do in the tournament, by the way? Just wondering.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, actually.
Yeah, okay,
I mean,
that's fine.
they matched me up with my worst matchup. It was rigged from the beginning. I mean, only for me.
Yeah, and you know what they say about champions? They make a lot of excuses every time they lose. So, you know, that makes a lot of sense. Super excited to be jumping in here to top 4. We are in the money. Super great. Do we have the decks ready to rock? We're going to jump over to the bracket to see where we have come from today. Super exciting. This matchup, we have the TheJollyRoger versus RoccoSocko. Have you played against either of them at all this weekend?
I have not, but to get to this point with all these very talented players in the pool, they must be doing something right.
And TheJollyRoger has a very unique and interesting deck. So he has a Destroyer and Destroy focus deck, but he also has a very cheeky combo where you can play an Invisible Woman down, you get Shuri, you hide a Taskmaster behind that Shuri, and then you play a 30 power Destroyer to get double 30s in both locations. You've probably seen it on TikTok. And to not only bring it to play in this tournament, to get to the top 4 is truly amazing. What do you like about this deck?
Well, I hate that combo, first of all, but I do really like this. I mean, it's risky to bring a Destroy deck, more of a Destroy deck, to a tournament where people should be bringing some counter cards like Cosmo and Armor. So
speaking of counter cards like Cosmo and Armor, let's take a peek at our other deck here, which is RoccoSocko, the one who was able to knock me out of this tournament, who has both Armor and Cosmo in the deck. A really interesting kind of like She-Hulk Infinite deck without the Infinite, instead going with this High Evolutionary Hulk Cyclops Misty Knight package. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, pretty cool mid-rangey deck, and then you have like a really strong finisher with that She-Hulk and the Hulk there. I mean, running Magic is always a little risky as well, like we saw the risk from the other side, but Magic with the popularity of Legion and just location changers in general is pretty risky, but he's got the Legion himself, so he can actually turn it off if he wants to. He gets to decide when it ends, and we're just going to jump right in to the semifinals right here.
Jumping into round 1 now. TheJollyRoger is in a really rough spot in this matchup. This is an open deckless format, so he is going to be very aware of the cards that RoccoSocko is going to be bringing. Those 2 main cards, like we talked about, Armor and Cosmo, which is going to be really tough for him to get over the top. So in this situation, you kind of have to be really aggressive with your snaps. You have to take risks, and we're going to see how he's able to utilize that throughout the match.
Yeah, I mean, they both might have to take some risks here. It's going to be an interesting matchup, but we do see the Nexus in the middle, and we know that Legion is in the deck for RoccoSocko, so he could change that at last second. We do see the Cosmo come down mid, but the Legion would go on the right side anywhere. It could only go on the right side, and that could be very interesting to see.
Yeah, Legion has brought up very interesting things into any of these games, right? You know, whenever Legion comes down and you're facing an opponent with Legion, especially with these open deckless formats, you're always just considering and thinking about what might be and what might end up happening. It looks like we're going to have TheJollyRoger hiding that Invisible Woman middle. An interesting play to maybe try and hide a Destroyer there later with the Cosmo.
Yeah, I mean, Invisible Woman is just such a strong card because secrecy in battle mode is so strong. Whether it's generating random cards or just the unknown in general. So I really like playing Invisible Woman down there and just running it in a deck in a tournament. Looks good to me. And yes, that Cosmo in the mid lane is going to make things a little tricky because there's no Shuri possibility there. But we do see a snap coming out from somebody here.
I believe that was from RoccoSocko's side. Snap coming down. He sees that, you know, he has a lot of different options here. He has Magic going into She-Hulk Hulk, knowing that those open deck lists, that he's going to have no way of shutting down this Limbo. So if he wants to have turn 7, he can choose to have it if he wants.
Exactly, and we are going to see that Limbo come down. Shuri is going to come down as well, which will be pretty powerful, but can't capitalize on it with the Taskmaster, of course, because of that Cosmo. Interestingly enough, he can maybe do something pretty cool with that, with the Null and the Destroyer if he could set it up properly. It seems pretty difficult. I don't envy him in this position. That's a lot of thinking that's going to have to be done here.
Yeah, going through and sticking with the snap, he just must be really confident that this Destroyer on the Cosmo lane is going to be enough. But, I mean, looking at the potential power, he's just ripping the Destroyer right. Very interesting. Just sacrificing everything he has middle.
Yeah, I don't really know the plan here.
Yeah, because with the Cosmo and the Nowhere, I mean, when you're just looking at a Cosmo, when you're just looking at a Nowhere, you're going to have options there. But when you have both of them on every other lane, there's nowhere else you really want to play a Destroyer because you can't Shuri it. It's going to be kind of hard. Maybe he's anticipating some kind of weird line from Rocco here.
Yeah, super awkward for JollyRoger. Just going to throw down that big Destroyer, and I don't know what the plan is, but I'm willing to find out.
Yeah, my guess is that he was just looking to try and charge up his Null here, sacrifice the cards there, knowing that it's all going to pack on top of the Null. But, you know, when you're facing a deck that has Hulk and She-Hulk, and they do a full pass on turn 6, you know there is a ton of stats going down. I'm probably going to see a retreat coming out here from JollyRoger, and there it is, yeah. It's tough. I don't know if you're going to be able to win a Nexus game against this.
Yeah, a little surprised to see him stay in for the double down, but maybe he just wants to get a little more information on his opponent's play style, and that's totally justified for the first few rounds, just staying in and getting just that extra little bit of information.
Now, the play there on 5 was magic. Maybe JollyRoger was expecting the Legion on the right, just like you mentioned earlier in the game, and then that's why he kind of played that Shuri over there to start to pick away that idea of playing around it. The magic comes down, and he just had to sit there and just kind of like wait and be like, you know, he got me.
Exactly. Legion is so strong because just the threat of it makes you play around it, and then your opponent just might not even play. It's kind of like Professor X in a sense. They're both 5-cost cards that really change the dynamic of the game as it goes along. We see the armor come down on that left side to stop the S23 from getting killed again, but I mean the damage is kind of already done. It goes on that left side for the Gamma Lab. The armor's going to work.
The armor's going to work against him here because now he can play the Deathlock, able to get 3 cards. Neither side is going to have a Shang-Chi available. JollyRoger snapping, saying, "Hey, I'm going to get 3 cards over here on the left." You know, there's a lot of things that could be happening, and let's see what happens.
Wow, really surprised to see Rocco stay in this one. Oh, that's why.
The magic.
That's why that huge magic play there. Yeah, I was actually, I don't know when he drew the magic there, if he had it at the beginning, but I was surprised to not see an insta-snap on that Gamma Lab from JollyRoger because it just works out so perfectly with his Venom and his Taskmaster's Null, that whole kind of combination there. But now things got a little more interesting, and still that Legion threat of turning off that Limbo if he so chooses.
Yeah, again, like we talked about at the beginning, JollyRoger ran into potentially the worst deck that he could have with what he has. So I think that trying to snap aggressively there, saying, hey, if you have magic, that's going to be tough. But if you don't have magic, this is absolutely, of all the games, one that I'm very much going to win. So you have to take those risks when you're the one who's at a disadvantage. That's
exactly right. That's like playing against a Mr. Negative deck. Sometimes you got to make them have that certain card or else they need to retreat. And sometimes you get punished for, sometimes you can get punished for doing that aggressive play and they end up having it, but sometimes you got to take that risk. And we see the Shuri come down, we see the Destroyer, we see the follow-up in the hand. It's looking pretty good for JollyRoger still at this point.
A giant 29 power Destroyer is going to be hanging out there in the middle. You do see that looming presence of Leech that's no longer a factor as we go into turn 6. That is the interesting thing about having Leech in this deck. It becomes pretty much a dead draw if you draw it after turn 5, especially in a Magic game that can go a little bit late. So, you know, the snap originally from JollyRoger looked great. Maybe after the Magic he looks a little bit down, but he took Shuri, he just kind of hung out and passed and instead of doing anything. Now he's going to have a 29 power Destroyer that he can Taskmaster, and he's going to tell Rocco, hey, you got to find a way to counter this.
That is very true, and that left side is becoming a little awkward. Playing the Jeff over there is fine, but he can't really... the problem is he doesn't have priority here, so the Cosmo, like, Taskmaster seems just like really good on that left side, and I don't know how you really stop it at this point. And of course, there's no Shang-Chi in the deck of Rocco, so it's looking like there should be that clear play to win it, but you never know what could happen in Marvel Snap.
Now this is really tough looking at Rocco's side, right? Because I think the reason he wanted to play Jeff there is I believe the Misty Knight trigger went over right on the Cyclops. I think he was trying to get a Misty Knight trigger left, because if he did get the win there, he would have a 50-50 Cosmo drop if he had priority to be able to stop that Taskmaster. But now, because it was a tie, the Misty Knight decided to go over to the right. He has just no way to play, and it looks like we're sitting there waiting for a retreat later from JollyRoger, and really, really good play by JollyRoger to get ahead here. And I can't imagine that JollyRoger is going to leave. I think he has to know that he has this game won. And very well played, and we're back tied to 8 apiece.
I believe that the Misty Knight did actually go on the left, and that there was no shot that he was going to take priority there. I could be wrong, but maybe yeah. I don't know what the thought process there was, but it seemed like it was pretty unwinnable, no matter what at that point. But we do see the Deadpool on turn 1. That's always what you want to see as a Deadpool player. But we also do see a Hulk in the hand of Rocco here that's just going to keep on growing.
And it's interesting because, you know, JollyRoger doesn't have a magic in his deck. If he was just playing his own game plan, he couldn't do that Shuri pass into the Destroyer, into the Taskmaster. He doesn't have turn 7 available with his deck. So maybe Rocco now has to start thinking deeper every game. Do I want to pay 3 energy to give JollyRoger another turn, even though I'm getting 1? Maybe this is going to come back to bite me in the butt. So we'll see how he adjusts to it later on in the game.
Yes, for sure. And we do see that armor come down on the left on turn 2 to block out that Deadpool from getting killed off, which is a really, really big hit here, especially with all these destroy cards that you see in the hand. But yeah, it just seems that JollyRoger's got to go for a different angle, and that's exactly what he's trying to do here. Trying to just set up a different kind of play, miniaturized lab, maybe making things a little more awkward, but still has a decent line here.
I tell you what, it does not feel good to drop this Nimrod into staring at a Cyclops that you know is going to ping it down and get away from the buff that made Nimrod so playable, as we've seen over time. Ooh. And here's the Leech. Leech showing off all these destroy cards in the hand, and no Chavez, so he does going to see a top deck. Null here's not going to do it. Maybe if we had a Destroyer coming down, a Destroyer would cause a lot of problems there, but nothing there. Gets the Null. Null's at 0 power. None of his other cards do anything, so we're going on here to game 4 with Rocco having a 1 cube advantage.
Yeah, just a 1 cube game there. Nobody really snapped. Oh my gosh, we see the peak coming out here.
Insta snap. Let's see it. Oh.
Yeah, this is where you got to evaluate what your opponent could have in this situation.
The cheeky grin that we're seeing here from JollyRoger. Oh man, there is nothing like seeing your 5-cost card turn into a 0-cost card. Oh, and the Nexus coming down as well. Now there's very scary things that can happen with the Legion potentially coming down, but man, that 0-5 Taskmaster is horrifying.
Yeah, we don't see any snap come out. Playing a little reserved. I mean, I don't really know what you're scared of flipping on the other side. I mean, Leech, if it's a 3-5, it doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, I feel like you should always snap that because your opponent knows that you have the Null, you have the Taskmaster, you have Shuri, you have like all these cards that benefit from that peak. So I'm a little surprised to not see it, but I mean, we still got plenty of game to go, and of course with the Nexus, anything can happen. So it's not the end of the world.
There is something a little bit to be scared about, though, because I didn't realize it at first, but the Destroyer got hit. So the Destroyer going from a 6-15, that's going to be the biggest thing that you're going to be trying to hit with this Taskmaster. So if you no longer have that available, interesting. You might be trying to get the Taskmaster down before a Cosmo potential, but it is dang scary to be playing that out without priority.
Yeah, a little awkward here. I mean, even playing like a 0-5 is honestly not that bad for later, so maybe you do just hold on to it, but he's just going to drop it here. Just take his points while he can.
I think it's going to come out to 7 total power here, but really what he's trying to do, I believe, is just charge that Null, just get that Null as big as possible. We could even see a Destroyer just slam down in the middle, wreck all of the cards and say, hey, I'm losing a lot of power here, but you know where it's going? Right into the Null that's sitting in my hand.
That is true, but he still has to be careful about the game ending at any given point here, not necessarily on turn 7. And yeah, just a pretty weak play, honestly, from JollyRoger. Doesn't really have a lot to work with here.
Leech coming down, going to do a lot of damage to that Null.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you think that null was charged? No, sir. It is no longer doing anything for you. The Legion is there. I mean, everything's interesting with the Legion, right? The Nexus, if you're able to get some power going left, the Nexus actually goes left, middle, right, and then everything goes back. So pretty much whoever has more power on the left is going to win those Nexus games. The numbers go crazy, and I don't try and do the math. I just kind of like let things go.
Yeah, I mean, Rocco knows that likely he hit something pretty decent from his opponent. JollyRoger knows there's no way with his hand. That was just pretty unfortunate, but like we were saying earlier, that could have been different. If JollyRoger did snap on that peak at the beginning, he maybe would have gotten away with that cube there. His opponent would have retreated, so.
I don't think Rocco stays in those early steps. We are going into round 5, which is the premium rounds here, where we are going to be seeing 2 cubes at an absolute minimum. RoccoSocko currently in the lead, 8 cubes to 6 as far as health goes. Yeah. Sinister London's a very interesting thing, and both players can kind of take advantage. Where do you see Sinister London giving one of them a bigger advantage here?
Yeah, I mean, now I see Rocco getting a bigger advantage. It was really dependent on the armor and the Cosmo, but if he has the answer to it, yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard to beat that. Like if he had Deadpool for turn 1 and he was able to have the priority, it could have been different. But yeah, that's gonna be pretty tough. And we see a
double snap. Do we see a double snap there?
Maybe
it looks like
once.
No, you're right. Yeah, next turn is 4. Next turn is 4. And I believe that was Rocco who threw out the snap. So he just loves having the double armor. I think that you're right. I think that Rocco probably does have the advantage with the Sinister London, because even though you know Roger can do some really cool things with it, he's got the counter cards. He's got the Cosmo. He's got the armor, which are just going to put a lot of damage on him. The early snap getting rewarded with 2 more cubes from Rocco, taking an 8-4 lead.
Yeah, still anybody's game. JollyRoger could come back. If he wins a 4-cuber, he could double up, and then it's just tied from there. But yeah, good snap by Rocco to get JollyRoger out of that game, just because you need to get your opponent out of the game before anything crazy happens. Like, you always want to capitalize on your advantages that you have in Marble Snap, especially in battle mode, and that's exactly what both players are doing for the most part. And yeah, the turn 1 Deadpool looking pretty nice. And okay, not an armor.
Not an armor, no armor on 2. You got to feel good there. We got Lake Hellas, which kind of helps the Deadpool, but I'd say that Rocco probably gets a bit more of an advantage there, having both Sunspot and the Misty Knight in the deck. And yeah, just like you were saying, I mean, especially when we get to these 2-cube rounds, making your opponent play a toll to move forward, I think, is important. And this Killmonger is going to sneak right around the Cosmo. Really well played to not stack those on top of each other.
That is a good play for sure. He didn't see the armor on turn 2, so you got to figure, like, he's going to have one of them, and he had the other one. Played around it perfectly. Well played by JollyRoger. Honestly, we could have seen a snap on that based on what we see in his hand. He's got a pretty solid thing going here, but just gonna play it a little chilled right now. He is down, so he's maybe playing a little more on the defense side.
And we know what comes down on turn 5 with Rocco's deck. We have the ever-looming presence of Leech. So let's see if Roger has made some adjustments and said maybe this is why he's going for this Venom play here, because he wants to be a little bit more ahead. Maybe he wants to try and get the Taskmaster down. But so many cards that he has in his hand, he's going to want to rely on. Maybe the Destroyer turning into a just 6/15 giant stat stick can be good. But it looks like he is going to play the Taskmaster out. He doesn't want that to turn into a 5-0. That's not going to be great for him.
Yeah, another good heads-up play to play around this side, because it's such an awkward spot knowing about the Leech. And yeah, I mean, gets around. I mean, Destroyer was already gonna be without an effect on the left side, but now he gets to play it anywhere he chooses. Does pick up the Nimrod, doesn't really help at the moment. I believe there is a Carnage in the deck still, which could be for turn 7. You can play the Nimrod with the Carnage. That could be very
solid. That'd be very solid. If you're in Roger's position here, are you snapping?
I mean, at the same time, yeah, I guess Legion is not going to work here either. Yeah, I mean, I would have snapped if I was JollyRoger. Like when we killed the
Carnage does come out here, a huge play, being able to Nimrod Carnage. The biggest problem with this Nimrod Carnage though is that it is throwing the middle lane. So you know, if this power comes out, and huge draw from Rocco on the Hulk, we kind of missed it there, but Rocco getting his Hulk, so he's going to have 21 power available. 2 extra power will go on the Hulk if he doesn't play the Misty Knight, or he can play the Misty Knight on top of it. But I think he's going to maybe try and double dip, get an extra power with the Sunspot, get the extra cards going out there.
So do we think he should play it on the same lane at this point? It's hard to really...
We still have to worry about the Jeff, too. Jeff hasn't moved either. I do like playing the Deathlock out there to time middle. I think he just thinks, I have a lot of power. Even if my opponent dumps a lot of power, I think that as long as we tie, we're going to be ahead. It looks like he's pushing 8 additional power left.
Wow.
And the snap! He's betting his tournament life on this final round, seeing if Rocco will stay in.
I mean, it was already going to be for
forces the retreat.
But he gets the retreat out there. Okay.
Very, very well played so far. I think that this is a really great back and forth match. I mean, you know, when we jumped in here, it seemed like JollyRoger was going to have a huge, huge uphill battle. And here he is in the round 7, only down 2 cubes. And, you know, one big game can really turn this and put him in a huge advantage.
Exactly. Anybody's game still. Dream Dimension, which is not good for anybody, but it does stop the Leech, actually, which is a big deal. It does stop the Nimrod. I mean, that makes it a good turn to pass for the She-Hulk. It kind of goes both ways at this point. Both players can benefit a little bit from that. But yeah, we see the armor come down again on... Okay.
I will be a bit shocked if we don't see a Magic coming down next turn, because he knows that this Leech has been so wonderful for him. Getting the Leech to opening up the access for that Leech over on the left, I think is going to be really, really important. Do we have a Cosmo coming down left? Is he saying Dream Dimension's fine? We got a Cosmo middle, trying to stop the destruction. He does hit it with the Carnage.
He's still got time for the Magic. He's still got time.
Still has time for the Magic.
And it would be off curve as well to help out his Misty Knight, help out his Hulk that he just picked up. Pretty well played by Rocco. The patience there really paying off. And I mean, you see X23, he saw the destroy card there. He knew he had to get rid of that, and he got rid of all that possibility.
Now I'm wondering if Roger is just fully expecting this Magic to come down here, because he knows that he doesn't want to deal with the Leech, the Shuri coming out over on the right. That Mojo World is going to be an interesting location for Rocco to try and steal away, right? He gets a lot of power that comes down with his cards, but the power is it's small. It's in like big chunks, right? So being able to fill up that location is going to be a problem.
Oh, we see the Leech come down.
Venom, Deathlock gone. Okay. Nimrod not going to get destroyed this game, and Null an absolute non-factor. But again, can Rocco get ahead there on Mojo World? And the question is, if he can't, how is he going to find a way to secure one of these or both of the other lanes, not just one of them?
Yeah, Mojo World is looking like an awkward location for almost both players, but yeah, JollyRoger picking up some cheaper cards to get down on that. Destroying the X23, it could go to the right side, fill it up. Does not.
Now, this is an insanely heads-up play from Rocco, and I would absolutely have misplayed this. What he did here is he played just the Sunspot on turn 6, only floating 5 mana, but knowing that She-Hulk and Hulk can still be played on the next turn, and you get to soak up that Sunspot. The problem is here, how is he going to win the right side and not have that left side just get taken over by whatever the JollyRoger is going to play? I think we might see a double retreat here if I had to guess. Oh, the retreat now from the JollyRoger. I think that was a big mistake, because I think if he would have just waited, they could have gotten a double retreat. I don't think that, like, if a Destroyer's in his deck, he's able to get it.
I mean, the thing is, Rocco kind of put himself in an awkward position by playing that Sunspot on the left side instead of the middle, so he clogged himself up. He left himself with a little less options, and he even already saw the Killmonger, so it would have been safe on a different lane than the armor location there. But yeah, you always want to press that retreat later button.
Always press retreat later.
Because you never know what your opponent's thinking, what's going through their head. There's many times where I've felt like there was no shot that my opponent was going to leave, and then they just end up leaving, and I'm saved out of like 4 cubes. And it helps out a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And it could be nerves, right? You know, when you're in these high pressure situations, you have a bunch of people watching you. This is at the very end of SnapCon. You know, just sitting there and just waiting and toiling, watching your opponent can be causing some mental damage on you. So maybe just thought, hey, if there's no way that he's going to retreat, I just want to move forward towards it. Okay. So
almost a really cool play with the falls there. But yeah, going to get that Limbo out right now. And yeah, JollyRoger's got to win 3 games in a row, which is difficult, but it's totally possible. And we're going to see a huge destroy with this Venom here, getting another extra energy, getting this Deadpool started. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah, we're absolutely seeing the power of X23. I think that was a card that was really, really hyped up and hasn't fully lived up to where many people expected it to be by the end. But I think that this X23 has really been a huge factor here in allowing him to get these turns a little bit early and just slowly ramping every single turn. I think JollyRoger's betting it all on Null here by just nuking his whole board with the Destroyer, hoping that Null top deck comes, knowing that if that lands over on the right, the opponent has absolutely nothing in his back pocket to defeat it.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like the only decent play, I think. Is everything else a little awkward. You can't really do the combo on the Invisible Woman because you don't have the Taskmaster, but now you got it.
Taskmaster's huge here, getting 14 power going on over on the left.
Yeah, gonna destroy this X23 one more time. And he knows what's coming from RoccoSocko. It's gonna be a power play. So it could come down to a potential 50-50. It's a little risky for Rocco to contest that Onslaught Citadel.
Oh, there's the Null! What a big draw there!
It is, but does he think that Rocco's gonna contest that Onslaught Citadel because of the potential of that Null? Now, like, it could come down to a 50-50. It could come down to mind games here.
Maybe you just rip the Null left, right?
Yeah,
oh,
exactly. One of those locations.
What an exciting play here in top 4. JollyRoger on his tournament life trying to make the hardest decision possible on where to go. He is only keeping that 4 power right, hoping that Rocco isn't going to be going after it, knowing the possibility of that Null, especially when you play the Destroyer out there. You know the Null's coming, and he didn't know that it was a top deck.
Yeah, I really like this play by JollyRoger here. Rocco's maybe trying to think of an alternative line that can beat, like, to try to maybe float enough energy on the Sunspot on the left, maybe contest the right enough just in case the Null is not played there. It's pretty awkward. What do you think about the Deadpool mid as opposed to on the right side, adding a little more power there?
I think that, you know, your opponent has She-Hulk, they have Hulk. The Deadpool's not going to matter if a She-Hulk or a Hulk comes over on the right, so he's just saying, oh, and they don't go for the right. How big is it in the middle? If it's the She-Hulk?
Okay.
It's an 11 power, and the Cyclops goes off. Wow, what a redefined, huge shout out to both players. What an amazing matchup.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, Rocco had extra cubes, so he's able to maybe make that kind of play more easily. Take a different kind of calculated risk, which otherwise he would not do in a different situation. But yeah, well played to both players.
Oh, absolutely.
Rocco is going to take it home.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, when you get to this point, right, and when you're at this higher level of playing, you can't just think so linearly. You know, I think that went 2 levels deep, where Rocco said, hey, I think that he thinks that I'm not going to play the Null over on the right, so I am actually going to play the Null over there on the right. Really, really well played. And we're gonna have Rocco jump in.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, Rocco, want to come and do a quick chat?
All right, first of all, congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
Well played. What was going through your head on that last play there? Because you did know of the potential Null that would come down on the Onslaught Citadel, but did you think that was too telegraphed?
I thought so. And if that was me, and I'm actually a big fan of Destroy, so I would figure most people think this lane's lost, I'm not even going to bother. So I would just, I'm already winning because I have 4 points with the Carnage.
Yeah.
So I'll just play the other lanes, get him the commit resources there, and just beat him out. So I figured, okay, he's going to play something there, so I'll just play either Hulk or She-Hulk, and then the other one with the buff from Wakanda Embassy and the Cyclops debuff should be enough points, as long as he doesn't play the Null middle.
Yeah.
So it came out basically that 50-50 at that point, but I figured he was not going to play the Null on the Onslaught Citadel.
Yeah, that was a very heads-up play. Do you think that your cubes maybe factored into you taking that risk, that little bit of a risk instead of the safe play? Like, do you think since you had the advantage with the cubes that you could take more of a risk like that?
Most likely, since it was already 2 cubes game, no matter what retreating or staying in, it meant nothing.
Yep.
So I could just play it out, see how it goes. I just had to play for the situation. Does the simple line play of just playing the Null huge, and then if I play the other 2 lanes, he loses.
Yeah.
So I had to just figure he's probably going to think I'm going to think line 1. He's going to do line 2, so I will do line 3 and just play into the Onslaught Citadel.
Gotcha. Yeah. An important question here. The game before that, where JollyRoger retreated now, or you press the retreat now button, do you think you were going to retreat in that situation as well?
Most likely.
Yeah.
Looking at the situation, I figured, okay, it's going to be risky depending on what he has, but when he retreated right away, I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was looking awkward from both situations. We were very surprised to see that. And yeah, I mean, well played throughout. Last question, I guess, is do you think you had the advantage going into that match with your deck?
Most definitely. I run the tech of Armor, Cosmo, Leech, basically shutting down most of his situations. And when the locations favor me, like Sinister London, where I get Armor here, Armor there, and I just Cosmo in the middle, there's nothing he can do, and I just run away with it.
Yeah, it ended up being a pretty close game, though. There were a lot of decisions to be made. And yeah, but you got that Armor down immediately, the Cosmo down immediately. Like, that's the priority before the Magic. Like, you were very reserved with that and like just focused on disrupting that game plan, and it worked out for you. And yeah, very well played. Thank you for yeah, good luck in the finals.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.